All right, everybody, welcome to our second candidate forum of the evening, which will be our final forum of our Power to Your Vote candidates forum series that we've been having. If you watched the last one, I was telling you all about the two that we did prior. In the primaries, we talked with mayoral candidate Kendrick Cox as well as candidate Mr. Charles Brown, who ran for city council in Greenwood's Ward 7. And earlier tonight, we spoke with Filipina mayoral candidate, Mrs. Patricia. And so next I'll be having a conversation, and I'll be speaking with Mr. Nick Onyshko. Um, Most people know him by Mr. O. So I'll go ahead and bring him on. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. How's it going?
I'm doing pretty good. Okay, so we're just gonna start tonight off by allowing you the opportunity to tell everybody who you are and just like why you decided to run for city council in the city of Greenwood.
Yes, sir. Definitely. Hey, everybody. My name is Nick Onyshko. As Robert said, most people know me as Mr. O. I am a seventh grade math teacher at Greenwood Middle School. I coach cross country at Greenwood High School. I'm a youth mentor, small business owner. I started my small business in 2019 called Delta Days Rentals. Delta Days Rentals' mission is to turn tenants into homeowners through rent-to-own options to provide quality and affordable housing. I've been in Greenwood for 7 years. I came here by way of Teach for America back in 2014. I fell in love with Greenwood and the hospitality shown to me by my students, my families, and the people of Greenwood, and decided to stay. I bought my house over here on River Road, so I'm a proud resident of Ward 3, and I'm here today as a candidate for Ward 3, Greenwood City Council. And there's quite a few reasons that I decided to run for City Council. First of all, I'm a teacher and a coach, and we've been having lots of issues with gun violence in our city. It's gotten worse recently, and that needs decisive action by our city leaders. We need people who are going to not only acknowledge the issue, but address the issue head on. And I believe that I've got a plan to at least begin to do that. I want to increase our recreational offerings. Our parks haven't been updated in a very long time. City Park over here in Ward 3, just a couple streets behind me here, is mostly desolate. Like, I feel like we can add some different offerings in our parks, invest back into recreation. Also, as I mentioned previously, I started my own housing company in 2019 called Delta Days Rentals. The reason to do that kind of stemmed from the deplorable housing conditions that I saw some of my students renting during my first years of teaching. And there were some apartments over on Carrollton Boulevard, and I stood there in the kitchen with my students' family, and there was sewage coming down the walls, and it was just like the landlord hasn't done anything about this, and I'm like, okay, this is a situation that I can help rectify. So I started Delta Days Rentals to offer quality and affordable housing here in Greenwood and help eventually tenants turn into homeowners. I believe in city beautification. I believe that we need a clean and welcoming city. And I really believe that we need to lead through community input. Our leaders need to be aware. They need to be open ears, open eyes to us as constituents, and really listen to what we're saying, because ultimately they work for us. Our taxpayer dollars pay for them and the government services that we get here in Greenwood. So that's kind of a little bit about my platform, a little bit about me, and thanks, Robert, for setting this up for tonight. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. And we're excited to have you on. You are one of the four candidates that we decided to endorse in our municipal elections that are coming up, because we're we're wanting to make sure that we help get elected candidates who we feel have a good plan and an actual vision that will help uplift our communities, and specifically those communities that are underserved right now.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
so I guess the first thing I want to kind of talk about is um, our city's infrastructure. So recently, the city has been doing a lot of repaving of streets and different things like that. But infrastructure is more than just the streets or whatever being repaved. There's things dealing with like trash can pick up, trash being picked up and different things like that. And so I guess the first thing I want to kind of ask is, what are your thoughts on like the parks and different things like that, and how will you work as a city councilman in Ward 3 to kind of rectify the issue in Ward 3 as well as the issues around the city?
Yeah, definitely. And that's so right. Infrastructure is so much more than just repaving streets, which it seems like we always see right before election time. But our parks, as I mentioned previously, most of them have not been updated in decades. And we need some resources going into our parks to offer some recreational opportunities for us to do some fun things there. Young people, old people, middle-aged people, everybody's looking for positive things to do in Greenwood, and our parks are the perfect center for that. I feel like we could have more festivals in different areas of the city. They don't always need to be in the same parks. We need more of them. City Park is a great central location. We've got Broad Street Park. That's a very historical site in our community as well. That needs to be recognized and uplifted. And you mentioned other types of infrastructure besides our parks. Yeah, we as one of my other bullet points was city beautification, and I really feel that we could utilize a partnership with our school district. We could utilize a partnership with our youth to help us clean up our city, because not only will that give our young people pride in their city, when they're cleaning it up, but also, if they see somebody that throws something down, they'll be like, hey, I got to pick that up. Somebody's got to pick that up. This is our place, so let's not do that. And just really stem it off of the power of one another. We can also, the crane comes around and picks things up. That schedule needs to be definitely looked at, because I'm not sure if it's getting everywhere where it needs to get as much as it needs to get there. So that can definitely be increased. I know in the past, Greenwood also used to have a 2 days, 2 times a week trash pickup. That can be looked into as well, depending on the cost of that, of course. And also another big part of our infrastructure, Robert, is our housing. And Greenwood has taken an approach recently, and if it looks bad, we knock it down. There's an entire neighborhood back here behind me near Sam Leach Park that there was houses there. They were boarded up, and now they're gone. Right.
That's
And
actually the next. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's actually like the next topic that I wanted to talk about was
okay.
there's really a housing crisis in Greenwood. A lot of people might not recognize it as a housing crisis, but there is really a housing crisis right now as far as people being able to find affordable homes and decent homes, because a lot of the homes in town are dilapidated houses, and houses that aren't livable. And so, as someone who would be serving on the city council, what would be your kind of vision and your plan in Ward 3, as well as working with other city councilmen around the city, to kind of look into the issue of our housing and different things like that. I know you've talked about how you started the housing thing that you have with rent, helping your tenants rent their homes, and you're also working on getting them able to buy their home. So just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, first of all, it's that the housing crisis affects everybody, and that's really important to understand. Everybody in the city is affected by our housing crisis, because what happens when we tear down lots with houses is, those lots had a higher property tax value when there was a structure on them. And when we knock them down, well, that's less taxes coming in. Usually, those end up becoming abandoned, vacant lots that taxpayer money has to go towards to pay and keep mowed, anyways. So I really feel that we need to be reshaping and restoring our housing. We need ordinances. I know that landlords already have ordinances. I'm aware of that as a landlord. I'm saying that I think we even need some more, because some of the, like I said, with the example of the apartment that I was in over on Carrollton Avenue, people are living, and they might, they might be, paying $250 or $300, but the conditions of these houses need to be addressed. And it's not safe for our families to be living in conditions that are unsafe and unsanitary. I have people that call my phone every day looking for a place to rent. Right? We talk about the population decrease. Everybody wants to talk about the population decline in the city, and this is one of the issues that's bringing that to fruition. Our houses are coming down. People can't find houses, and the houses that they can find are underkept. And the ones that are kept up, they're rented, and they're rented for years. So most of my properties have been rented for extended periods of time, and people don't want to go out and find a different place, and that leaves us with a shortage of quality housing. So instead of us tearing it down and knocking it down, we really need to invest into rehabbing and restructuring it. We have a lot of awesome architecture here, and a lot of these houses, can be restored and saved from the city's wrecking ball that ultimately costs us more money to upkeep those lots, and less money coming in from property taxes.
Yeah, and I personally, like I said, I really agree with with that, because personally living just in my neighborhood alone, there's no houses on my street that are empty, and so I can only imagine someone in the community trying to they're just, let's say they're just getting out of college or something like that, and they want to stay in Greenwood, but there's nowhere for them to live, and so the natural thing for them to do is to just go on to Cleveland or Grenada or somewhere like that
Right.
has better housing options. So the next thing I want to kind of get into is our trust and leadership in the city of Greenwood. A lot of people, specifically if you've been involved in politics for the last couple of years, you'll notice a lot of people talk about they don't really do politics, they don't really get involved in it, because a lot of people feel like a lot of things are already made up before they have the meeting, or certain people make these decisions, and things like that. And so as a councilman, you will be working with the mayor as well as other council members. So how will you specifically work on the council to help bridge that gap between the community and our city government?
Yeah, definitely. That's an awesome question. The fifth pillar of my candidacy is leading through community input. We need to listen to our constituents, and that's not just me in Ward 3 or the mayor, but that needs to be promoted across the entire council. That doesn't matter how long you've been sitting in office. These residents, these are our people, and they've put us into office, and we need to listen to them and their input. Transparency, comes with community input as well. We need to be talking freely, with our constituents about the issues, listening to what they have to say, and really making the best, decisions across the council. It requires teamwork, right? It requires everybody, coming together to make decisions. That's what the city council is. One city councilman, can't make the decisions for the council. So that really needs to, be a priority of not only the next city councilman for Ward 3, but also every single person on the council, to make sure that we have transparency, and that we have an open door to our constituents, and not only an open door, but also that we're listening and taking in what people have to say. Because there's lots of things, people have lots of opinions, people have lots of ideas in Greenwood. There's lots of community input. I've heard people say that Greenwood is pretty politically disengaged. I don't think that that's the case. Everybody has an opinion on things happening in town, and people need to be able to take those ideas and opinions to their elected leaders.
Yeah, like one of the things when I talked with Mr. Brown a couple of months ago, me and him kind of talked a lot about community forums in the different wards, and having it where each every maybe every other month or so, the council members are having, forums in their particular wards, to hear this, the input of count different members of the community and different things like that. And that way, when they have meetings, it's not like people, feel like they aren't being heard, or, they haven't seen their council member, for months at a time. And then they're just seeing them when they say something in the newspaper. And
Right.
so that is definitely an issue that is really pressing right now. Um, that's the
Can
next.
can I jump in on that for just one more comment? You know, so much I think would come from that. You know, our city council is elected by their ward, but they're working for the city. They're working for everybody in Greenwood to make a better city for us all. And if we could get our councilmen and our into different wards to hear the people, meet and greets with the citizens, I think that would go a huge way to uniting us as a community.
Mm-hmm. And it's also, I talked about this. Me and Miss Patricia talked about this a little bit a few moments ago when I talked with her in the interview I did with her. She also talked about, the city having a better platform, as far as the website and different things like that. She talked about it in relationship to Itabena, but just even in relationship to Greenwood, there's like our city council members don't have emails where people can email them. There's this process that is very outdated where, if you want to contact your council member, you have to like write a letter to the city hall and different things like that. And so, even just reforming those particular processes will help a lot with like the transparency and different things like that within the city.
Yep, definitely keeping that communication open through as many ways as possible. It's funny. My dad was looking at the website, and he was just looking to find out some information about upcoming meetings, right? And he responded back to me in all caps, and he's like, "The website is useless." And this is him looking at it from an outsider, looking in. And those are easy fixes, Robert. We should be able to do that to keep that communication open, and that goes so much towards the transparency. And why there's no trust is because the communication's not there. When you communicate with people, you build trust.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the next thing I want to move into is like the crime and gun violence that has been happening recently. Last year was our worst year in recent history as far as the gun violence. We had like 20 something plus homicides last year that were the result of gun violence, in the county. And most of those happened in the city of Greenwood. And this year we're really on pace to surpassing that if things don't, if we don't see some type of leadership or something like that, from our city's leadership. And so what are your thoughts on like, the crime situation and, how can the city council and even the mayor get more involved, and how can they, what are some things that they can do in their positions and, that you will be trying to do as if once you're elected, to help that situation and, make sure that, you're doing what's needed in in that particular position.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, gun violence is unfortunately a major issue in our community, and the first thing that we need to do is we need to acknowledge it. We have to stop pushing it under the rug. We have to stop pretending that it's not happening or ignoring it, because these are young lives. This is our future. That's being lost. Most of these are young men that have a bright and promising future, and we need to really take that at its fullest, because that is so important when our youth are dying in the streets due to gun violence and crime. There are so many mentoring groups and different organizations around town that are working hands-on with our youth every single day in order to point them in the correct direction, give them some positive outlook on life, show them some new and different things through experiential learning and mentorship. And the city really has an opportunity there, because there are so many groups. We have the Greenwood Mentoring Group, we have the Boys and Girls Club, we have Ceasefire, we have different AAU sports teams. We have the mentoring group that I was able to start with some coworkers from the middle school a few years ago. There are so many people doing the work in our city, in our community. And the city has the opportunity, right? They have an opportunity to set the stage for these groups to come together and provide resources and acknowledge the good work that's being done, help promote the work that's being done by these community members and by these organizations, and really set the stage, for collaboration and expansion and support with resources. Because once we acknowledge that gun violence is a thing, we need the action, the decisive action, and the leadership to help combat it. And we need to look at some other factors as well. We need to look at mental health, in our youth and the resources that we have available to them. We also need to look at the mental health, of our law enforcement and the resources that are available to them as well. Because being in law enforcement is not an easy job, and mental health is an issue in that aspect as well. And those are just some of my ideas on how the city can take a hands-on approach to really support the different organizations and people that are trying to combat the issues of gun violence and acknowledge that it's an issue.
Yeah, I'm glad you kind of talked about the police department as well, because there are a lot of people who are, questioning, how our policing should work. And, specifically with Black Lives Matter, our position, largely is, decreasing the budgets of police departments because, we don't want to see too much over policing, but we also understand that there does need to be some policing. And so, just, putting those two things into perspective, about the mental health, things like that, there's also been like talks about, policing as far as this going, with like traffic stops and different things like that, and kind of limiting, who's going out to those different traffic stops and different things like that. And so what are your thoughts on, the police budget and, how the city is supporting the police and some of the things like that?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, I had the opportunity and the pleasure to speak at Voters League a few weeks ago, and I listened to a lady speak there about her issue with the lack of trust that exists between the community and the police, especially in her neighborhood. It wasn't in Ward 3. She had walked over to Voters League from her home, and she said that our police officers will go by with their windows up, not wave, not look around. They'll roll down the window to talk to each other, speed around a little bit, and be gone. And that there's no trust really there with our community and with our law enforcement. So I know that recently we've been touting some successes with community policing in Greenwood, and clearly it's not being felt on the community side. So something needs to change there in order that the community feels that there's community policing going on. Because if the community doesn't think that, then you can't really say that we're doing community policing. Yeah. And just building that trust. And we're a small community, and we have the ability to build solid trust between our residents and our police force. And we just need to take the steps in order to do that and make it a priority.
Yeah. And there's also been like talk on, raising the pay for police officers, because the pay for police officers in Greenwood is like, very low compared to, other cities in the area and even around the state. And so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a really good question, because we do need quality police officers. Mm-hmm. Quality police officers are needed. And, quality police officers come just like quality positions come in other professions, right? There's reasons why people stay and people go. And there's ways that we can combat the issue of, high officer turnover. That doesn't necessarily, mean adding more money, to our police officers. However, as such a vital force, to our community, and when community policing is fully engaged, our police officers are members of this community as well, and they need a living salary. They need to be able to take care of their families while they're doing the work that they're doing, just as any other profession does as well.
Okay, and as we're talking about salaries and different things like that, that goes into my next topic, which is jobs. A lot of people in Greenwood, there's only really 2 or 3 places where, you'll be able to work, a decent job like Milwaukee Tools, Viking, and other different, larger corporations where people are allowed to, make a decent wage as well as get health insurance and different things like that. And so a lot of the conversation has been, how are we, as a city, how is the city working to bring more jobs into the city so that people don't feel like they're confined to, just working at a factory job. And so what are your thoughts on, job creation and different things like that within the city?
Yeah, definitely. Well, there are trades are so important. And I've realized that, especially with the different things that I've needed to get done on my houses in order to make sure that they're both quality, and ready and suitable for families to live in. And it's difficult to find people to work on my properties. And I don't feel that we are doing a great job promoting the trades that, and the different programs that are available right here in Greenwood and that are needed right here in Greenwood. We have MDCC that offers multiple, trades that pay awesome salaries when we get out of school. Those are often overlooked, and people are pushed towards a 4-year university or a job straight out of high school. The city can do an awesome job at promoting, the educational programs that we have right here, that we have available to to people and our youth leaving high school, and even those folks that are looking to re-enter the workforce that might not have been in the workforce for a while. Trades are needed, and we can train people in these trades right here in town. Another thing is that we've got land. That is something that Greenwood has, is we've got land. And what we can do is we can start talking with, Amazon has hit us, they hit North Mississippi, they hit Canton, what about the Delta? And a lot of times we're sitting here wondering, what about the Delta? And, we've got land to put places, right? And housing is one of the issues, right? People can't find housing. They can't move people here to fill these jobs or to even start, building these new buildings here, that'll provide people with jobs. So, all of it, everything's interconnected. We have the potential, if we start, addressing some of these, systematic problems that are keeping things away from us head on, because we definitely have the capability to have, some of these jobs coming into our town.
Okay. And, we're about to wrap this up. And so the last question I want to kind of ask about is the pandemic. We've been in this pandemic over a year now, and, we're starting to come, it's starting to kind of slowly come to
but surely.
People are starting to get vaccinated and different things like that. And even the city, on the 15th, they will be having their meeting, and they'll be discussing the city's mask mandate. And so, whoever's elected in the next council or the next mayor or however will end up being a part, somewhere at the end of this pandemic, and, we'll be working to help make sure that things are going smoothly as far as businesses being able to get back to full capacity and different things like that. And so what are your thoughts on, the city's response to the pandemic, and, what'll be some things you'll be looking forward to as a member of the council as far as making sure businesses and different things like that are opening back up the way that they should be?
Yeah, definitely. So the city's, planning to vote on the mask mandate, on the 15th, and we need to continue to, ask people to get this vaccination. I think it's very, very important that people understand the benefits of it. I mean, we've seen COVID tragically tear through our nation for over a year, and promoting the vaccination is something that the city can do, and really, showing people that this is something that should be happening right now, in order for us to make a transition back to normal. And I think that's going to be a good first step that can be made by the next council coming in, by whoever is elected as mayor tomorrow, and really promote that vaccination to our residents and the resources needed to put them in contact with that vaccination, and help us move forward and out of this pandemic.
Definitely. So that was my last question. So the last thing is, tomorrow, like you said, tomorrow is election day. So, for people who are watching and they want to be involved with your campaign, they want to help out tomorrow, people who may not live in your ward, they just want to help out. What are some things that people can do to get involved, or just whatever people can do tomorrow to help you out? So,
Yeah, definitely. We'll be set up across the street from the youth center tomorrow. We'll have 2 tents. We plan to grill out and pass out information to people who might not have received a pamphlet yet, or that we might not have been able to hit when we've been knocking on doors over these past few weeks. We plan to provide lunch out there from 11 to about 2 or 3 p.m. while supplies last. We've got T-shirts, and we'll be out there and across from the youth center and rallying in our voters, and really excited to see how everything turns out tomorrow. And I really do appreciate everybody's support that we've received so far. A lot of positive feedback from the candidates forum, from Voters League, and from us actually having direct contact with voters. I think we're gonna see some positive things happen tomorrow.
Okay, well, we do want to thank you for joining us here tonight. Like I said, you were one of the 4 candidates we decided to endorse in the races that are happening tomorrow, because we see that, you have a great platform and an actual vision that will be transformative for the community, and more specifically those who are underserved right now in our community. So thank you again for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Robert, and that endorsement means a lot. I'm excited to serve the people of Greenwood.
All right, everybody. So we are going to get ready to end our live tonight, and I thank everybody for tuning in. As we have stated multiple times tonight, the election is tomorrow. So tomorrow, if you do not know where your voting precinct is, you can go to the Black Lives Matter Greenwood Facebook page, or Kendrick Cox Facebook page as well. And there's a graphic with the locations for tomorrow's election. So if you live in a certain ward and you don't know where your polling place is, or you're registered to vote and you just don't know, you can go check that out. Tomorrow there will also be people who will giving rides to the polls. You can check our Facebook page. We'll post that tomorrow. But we also have the 4 candidates that we endorsed. Mr. O. We also endorsed Mrs. Patricia Young in the Edabina mayoral race. We endorsed Mr. Kendrick Cox in the Greenwood mayoral race, and we have also endorsed Mr. Anthony Gary. We were unable to get him onto our platform for a forum because they are just the scheduling, but he was very much interested, and we're excited to endorse his campaign as well. And so thank everybody for tuning in tonight, and we one more thing before I get off. We will be going live tomorrow evening around about 7:30, 8 o'clock ish, to pretty much discuss the results, and as they come in. Have a comment from Mr. Williams here. Mr. Williams said, "Don't let the weather keep you indoors tomorrow." So yes, do not let the weather keep you indoors tomorrow. If you need to get your umbrella, whatever you need to do, go out and vote tomorrow, because it is important that we do what we need to do to see change in our city. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and we'll go ahead and end the live on that note.